We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Med Aleph and Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 66a. The Gemara is discussing the halach of esnan zona. That's if a person pays a prostitute with an animal, that animal is not allowed to go on the mizbeach. It can't be brought as a carbon. And the Gemara says, according to Beis Shammai, what do Beis Shammai do with the word haim in the pasuk? Haim is an exclusion. We already said, according to Beis Hillel, that haim is excluding shinuyehem, meaning if there's a change in the animal, then the animal is allowed to be brought as a carbon. Beis Shammai disagree with that, so Beis Shammai say, haim velo valdoseim, who does. So the word haim is to say, and not their offspring. The offspring of that animal is still allowed to be brought as a carbon. Where do Beis Hillel know this idea that the offspring can be a carbon? Beis Hillel tarti shamis mina. Beis Hillel learns both halachas from the haim velo shinuyayim, haim velo valdoseim. Haim and not their shinuyim, not if it changes, not if the animal changes physically, and haim velo valdoseim again means them and not their offspring. The halacha that the esnan zona can't be brought as a carbon does not apply to the offspring. And the Gemara says, Beis Hillel haksiv gam, but Beis Hillel, what do they do with the word gam? Because the word gam, according to Beis Shammai, was used to include even shinuyehem. According to Beis Shammai, they don't take into account the shinui. They say the animal still cannot be brought as a carbon, even if it physically changes. And the Gemara says, gam le Beis Hillel kasha. The word gam, according to Beis Hillel, is indeed difficult. And the Gemara continues, Ad kan lo pligi ela demar savar shinoi kona, umar savar ein shinoi kona. The whole machlokus between Rabbi Lo and Rabbi Chanina on the previous summit, the only machlokus is whether shinoi is kona or whether shinoi is not kona. Again, to review that machlokus, the issue was, let's say you have a situation where an animal becomes an adult. At the time it's stolen, it's still a child animal, but then it becomes an adult. The question is, do we say shinoi kona or not? Rabbi Lo says that we say shinoi kona, and therefore if the person sells or slaughters the animal, we say shalohu toveach, shalohu mocher. He's actually slaughtering, he's selling his own animal, and there's no arba v'chamisha. That's what Rabbi Lo said. Rabbi Chanina said that there is an arba v'chamisha in that case because shinoi is not kona in terms of this halacha of arba v'chamisha. And the brisa that Rabbi Chanina brought to support his opinion said that you pay the arba v'chamisha ke'ein shaganav. You go according to the value the animal was at the time it was stolen. Again, Rabbi Lo asked on that if it's true that shinoi is not kona and there's no kinyan here, why are you paying the arba v'chamisha ke'ein shaganav like the time it was stolen? Shouldn't you pay kedahashta? That was just a question Rabbi Lo had on Rabbi Chanina. But again, aval inyan shalume. But in terms of actually paying, the brisa was explicit. It was clear. Kuli alma kidmei kar mishalim. Everybody agrees that you do pay ke'ein shaganav. You do pay as it was at the time that it was stolen. Again, Rabbi Lo understood the brisa, that the brisa is simply talking according to the opinion of Beis Shammai, and Rabbi Lo said that he himself holds that there is a kinyan and there's no dalet v'hei, but regardless, it does say kidmei kara in the brisa. Tekatani, because what does it say in that brisa that Rabbi Chanina brought on the previous summit? It says mishalim tashlumei kefil v'tashlumei arba v'chamisha ke'ein shaganav. It says that the kefil and the arba v'chamisha is paid according to the value it was at the time that it was stolen. And so the Gemara says, Lema tihavi tiyuf to the Rav. Let us say that this is a refutation of what Rav said. And Rashi already noted that the Gemara would ask this question on Rav. The Yoma Rav, because Rav said, Karen ke'ein shaganav, that when it comes to the Karen, the principal, you pay. Ke'ein shaganav mishalim, you pay according to what it was worth at the time it was stolen by the principal. However, tashlumei kefil v'tashlumei daled v'hei, keshas hamad b'din. When it comes to tashlumei kefil and tashlumei daled v'hei, it goes according to what it's worth at the time of the court case. And that is a contradiction. Again, a question against Rav. This is the question that Rashi said on the previous summit that the Gemara would ask, that the Gemara is now asking. And Rashi says, Ad kan lo pligi Rabbi Lo, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Lo and Rabbi Chanina, they only argue in terms of whether shinoi is kona or not, aval inyan shalume, but in terms of paying. Kagon kefil Rabbi Lo. For example, kefil according to Rabbi Lo's halacha was only relevant to slaughtering or selling, because we say shalohu toveach, shalohu mocher, but in terms of, let's say, the payment of kefil, the payment of double, v'dalid v'hei Rabbi Chanina, and the dalid v'hei, of course, according to Rabbi Chanina, inami b'yukra v'zula, or let's say even we're talking about the market fluctuates, and it goes up in value or down in value, below shinoi, and there is no physical change to the animal. To kuli alma, it seems like everybody would agree, kidmei ikara mishalim, that you would pay according to what it was worth earlier at the time it was stolen. To katani, because that's what it says in the brisa. It says ke'ein shaganav. It says that you pay according to the time that it was stolen. So lema tiyave tiyuf to the Rav. Let us say that that is a refutation of Rav. To Amar Le'el, because Rav said earlier, kashas hamad b'din. He said that we followed the amount it's worth at the time of the court case, kishahuzla, in a case when it goes down in value, you would pay the lower amount. The kol shagain kishahukra, and that's certainly true. When it goes up in value, you would pay that amount. Dehasam afilu karen mechayev Rav, because there we said that even the principal Rav says that you have to pay the higher amount in that case, kihashti, you have to pay according to what it is now. So certainly you would do that when it comes to kefil and dalid vehei. And so therefore, again, you have a question here on Rav. Rav says, Keshas hamada bedin, and it says in this bryce, it says, Kidimei kara, Tahakarabba svirle damar tavro shasi misham dalid. Again, Rav agrees with what Rabba said earlier, that in a case where he actually actively breaks the barrel of wine, or he drinks from the barrel of wine, you pay dalid in that case, you pay kidahashta if it goes up in value. In any case, we have over here a question on Rav. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava, Rava says, Teloyim kidimei kara, if the person would be paying with sheep, so then he would be paying kidimei kara according to what it was worth earlier. However, damim, if the person is paying with money, kishalachshav, then it follows what it is worth right now. And Rashi explains, Teloim kidimei kara kilomar, what it means to say is as follows, Bol lishalim teloim, if the person wants to pay in sheep, he wants to pay in animals, kidimei kara sagi, then it is good enough to pay according to what it was worth earlier, the tle gonav with tle mishalim, because he stole it when it was just a lamb. Again, tle means that it was a lamb, it's not yet an adult, and so he can pay back a tle. Rav is essentially saying if he steals it as a lamb and he pays back in animals, that's when we say that he pays kidimei kara, and that's the explanation of the brisa. However, if he pays back damim, if he pays back money, so then it would be correct what Rav says, that you pay kidahashta according to what it's worth right now. And the logic behind Rashi's distinction is a little bit difficult. We'll take a look at Tosas as well. To loim kitemei kar, if it's lambs, then you go by what it's worth earlier at the time it was stolen. Nira l'ri, it appears to the ri, dahachi perusha. This is the explanation of the Gemara. This is the explanation of Rava's answer. To le'inyan tlev nasa ayil o kechusha v'nispatma. If we're talking about a case where it was a lamb and now it became an ayil, it became an adult animal, or again kechusha v'nispatma, it was a thin animal and it became fatter, there was a physical change. Or the reverse, let's say there was a change that it deteriorated, went down. L'shalim kefel nami v'chein dalid v'hei kidemei kara kamo karen. There, actually, the kefel, the dalid v'hei, you would pay ke'ein shagonav kidemei kara as it was worth earlier, just like karen. There would be no distinction between kefel, dalid v'hei, and karen in that case. Avol damim, but by damim, which means dahainu yukra v'zula, meaning if it just went up or down in terms of market value, there was no physical change to the animal. So then kishalachshav, then you would actually follow what it is worth right now. Sheshamin oso tleshel shaskeneva lefi gadluso o katanuso shahaya b'shaskeneva. That you take this lamb at the time that you stole it, you evaluate it according to what it was at that time. Lefi yukra vizula dehashta. But you go according to the market prices of right now. Meaning to say, we take it as if it was in the same physical state as it was at the time it was stolen, but we go according to the market prices that exist right now. And Tosas continue and explain the logic for that distinction. The reason why in the case of where the animal itself changes is because the person can say, did I steal from you an actual shore when I stole it? It was a small animal. The same thing if he stole it thin and now it's fat. He can say, did I steal a fat animal? Of course, you only have to pay the animal that you stole. But when it comes to market value, he can't say, it's not possible to say, did I steal it at this particular market value? You can't make that argument. In the pasuk also it mentions the body of the animals, and we darshan shem ganav shor shavamana lo yeshalim tachtav hey negidim. If a person steals a shore that's worth a mana, he doesn't pay back five of those. Dechsiv tachtav demashma tachas guf ashor. Sounds like tachas guf ashor. You're going to pay back the value. Umishum deloshan guf ashor nizkar bepasuk mishum hachi amrinon telam kidmei kara. But because the actual animal is mentioned in the pasuk, that's why we say telam kidmei kara. We go by the actual animal that was stolen. Now, even though it's the moment of tvicha, the moment of slaughtering, that the person is chayav the dalid v'hei, but it's also true that the moment of stealing is what caused all of this to happen. Shemein geneva in tvicha mechira, because without stealing it, you don't have the slaughtering, you don't have the selling, and so therefore, in terms of the physical animal, we go by what the physical animal was at the time it was stolen, even in terms of the dalid v'hei. Avol damim, but when it comes to the market value, shekali karim teluyim b'shumas bezin, where it all has to do with bezin making an evaluation, v'gamein is karim b'pasuk, and nothing is mentioned about that in the pasuk, like the bodies of the animals, like the animals themselves are mentioned in the pasuk. We don't have anything mentioned about market value. Svarhu demukminan bu achya keren davka ke'ein shaganav, it makes sense to say that only the keren there goes by what it was at the time that it was stolen, velo daled vehei, but not the daled vehei, the 4 and 5 times the amount would go by the market value now. Ela kashas hamad bedin, that already goes like the time of the court case, shebezin shaman osa ba'osa shah, that Bezin makes that evaluation at that moment, and Tosa goes on to say other explanations as well. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba says, Shinoi Kona, the idea that a physical change would create a kinyan when it comes to Geneva, Ksiva Utanina, that is written, and it is also taught like that as well. And the Gemara says, Ksiva, where is it written? It's written, Veheshav es hagazela asher gazal. It says that he has to return the item that he stole. Matamad lomar asher gazal. What does it mean, asher gazal? Im ke'ein she gazal yachzer means to say, if it's the same as when it was stolen, so then he returns it. V'im la, but if not, damim bialma boy shalume, then he just has to pay the value, meaning to say that if it's no longer the same, that's the idea that shinoi kona, and now this person who stole it owes money. And Rabba continues, Tanina, we learned it in a Mishnah as well, Hagozel eitzim vason kalim, if somebody steals wood and turns them into vessels, Tzemer vason begadim, he steals wool, turns it into clothing, Mishalim kashas hagzela, he pays according to what it was at the time of the gzela, again the idea of shinoi kona. And the Gemara says, Inami, or we could learn it from another Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Chulin, Lo hispik litno lo, if he didn't give the Reishis Hagez to the Kohen, that's the first of the shearings to the Kohen, Ad Shetzvo, until he dyed the wool, Pater, he's Pater in that case from Reishis Hagez. Alma, we see from both of these Mishnayos, Shinoi Kona, that Shinoi creates an acquisition. And Rashi explains, Shinoi Kona, the Shinoi creates a kinyan. Hecha the Shani Luhu Biadayim, says Rashi, if the Shinoi was created by the individual actively with his hands, Pshita le de midoraisa vadai kona, then it's obvious that midoraisa there's a kinyan. V'chimahader lo boila hadrinhu beinai, when he returns it, he doesn't have to return it, the item itself. Eladamim mishalim, he just pays the value, he just pays money. Kagon semer vaso begadim, for example, let's say wool that was made into garments, taksiva behedya v'tanina. The point is that's written explicitly and it's taught in a Mishnah. Avol yish, but this is all going to lead to the question by yish. What if the original owner gives up hope? Misafkale, so that's already a doubt. Hada amar rabbanon kani ido raisa ido rabbanon. And the question is, when the rabbanon say that yish is kona, so is that a doraisa or is that a derabbanon? That's what the Gemara, that's what Rav is essentially leading up to. When it comes to shinoi, so ksiva v'tanina, that's already a doraisa. Lo hispik litnu lo l'reishis hagez l'kohen. Rashi says, what does it mean lo hispik litnu lo? That's the Mishnah by reishis hagez. He didn't give the first of the shearings to the Kohen, Ad Shetzvo Pater, until he already dyed the wool. So then he's Pater from Reishis Hagez. He's Pater from Reishis Hagez. The Kanya B'shinoi, because at that point in time he's acquired the wool through this physical change. V'afilu domim lo mashalim. In this case, he's not even going to have to pay the value. He won't even have to pay the money. De'ein Kohen Yachol Hazmino Bedin. And there's no specific Kohen that can take him to court over this. To Yachol Omer La'achar, and then he could tell any Kohen, I was going to give it to some other Kohen. Aval Kodem Shetzava, but let's say before he dies it, Mishachat Zocha, but whichever Kohen takes it, grabs it, is going to be Zocha. And so the Gemara now continues with Rabba's question, again, Alma Shinoi Kona. We see from all these sources that Shinoi is a kinyan, but Yush, but when it comes to Yush, let's say the original owner gives up hope, Amri Rabbanan Denikni, the Rabbanan do say that also creates a kinyan. Miu lo yadinan idorai. Nevertheless, we don't know whether that kinyan is doraisa, is from the Torah, or is it midrabanan. Idoraisa, could be doraisa. Midi dehavia motzi aveda, similar to somebody who finds a lost object. Motzi aveda lav kaven de miyayish mora mina mekami de tesi liyade kanile. When it comes to somebody who finds a lost object, isn't it true that if the original owner gives up hope before it comes to his hand, so then it's considered to be a kinyan? Hainami here also, in this case as well, by stealing kaven de miyayish mora, once the original owner gives up hope, kanile, so he's going to acquire it. Alma kani, so we see that it is a good kinyan, and it's a kinyan on a doraisa level. Odilmor, maybe lo damyul aveda, maybe it's not similar to aveda. Aveda hu dechiyasoy liyade behetera asyo liyade, because by a lost object, when the person finds it, it comes to his hand behetera, he picked it up in a permissible fashion. Aval hai, but in this case of somebody who steals, kaven devisura asoy liyade, since it came to his hands in a prohibited manner, midrabanan hu dam rabbanan niknim ifnei takonas hashavim. Maybe it's only midrabanan that the rabbanan say that Yush is kona because of a takonas hashavim. That means to say they made a takana that would help, that would make it easier to return the item or the value of the item. Rav Yosef Amar, the Gemara concludes here that Rav Yosef says Yush eno kona ve'afilu midrabanan, that Yush is not kona even on a derabanan level. And Rashi explains, Yiyush shenisyaishu habaylim means that the original owner gave up hope. Amar Rabbanan denikni, the Rabbanan say that's a kinyan. V'dayo mishalim damav. The point is it's enough to pay back the money. You don't have to actually pay back the item. So on the one hand, you can say it's doraisa motzi aveda because it's like somebody who finds a lost object. Lav kevan demiyash leimor mekame detesli yadi kanila. Don't we say that if the owner gave up hope before it comes to his hand, he acquires it? Means to say as follows: if the original owner gives up hope kodem shematza zeh before the person found the lost object, kana, that is a kinyan. Titanya be'elam mitzias, we learned in a brayso and elam mitzias and bab mitzia. Minayin laveda shashot fanar. How do you know if you have a lost object that was swept away by a river? Hoel v'nisyaishu habaylam shimuteres. Once the original owner gave up hope, it's now mutter to take. Talmud rasha tovad mimenu. It says tovad mimenu sha'avuda mimenu. It means it's lost from him. Umitsuyo l'shar b'nei adam, and it can be found by other people. That's an item that needs to be returned. Yatzda zu, but that excludes this case. Al makani. So you see, the point anyways is when it's swept away by the river and it's considered totally, the person completely gave up hope, it's considered totally lost. You see that Yish is a kinyan. But over here we're talking about Gezela where it comes to him before the Yish, v'hadar iyayish, and we'll say that afterwards the person gave up hope. Sagile bedamim. Maybe that should be the same, and we'll say that it's enough to pay back. It's enough to pay back money. But then the Gemara says, maybe we say no, maybe it's mishum takonas hashav, and maybe it just is an easier way to return to the original owner. Meaning to say it's not a doraisa that yish is kona, but rather it's a takona shelo yehitzarach lechazer v'letroach achar gzela atzma. This way, the person who stole doesn't have to go try to find the original thing he stole. He'll be able to pay back in money. And Rav Yosef says eno kona, that the yish is not kona at all. V'hi atzma yishalim, and therefore, since the yish is not kona, he has to pay back the original item. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Eisvei Rav Yosef l'Rabba. Rav Yosef asked Rabba the following question: Gazal chametz v'over olav Pesach. Let's say a person steals chametz and then Pesach passes. The holiday of Pesach passes after he stole the chametz. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Vav Amud Beis.